Welcome to the Psychology World podcast. I'm Connor Whiteley, bringing you psychology news, articles, and other interesting psychology-related articles. Where I can find the podcast notes and more interesting psychology-related things, and you can get your free 8 psychology book box set at connorwhiteley.net. Now let's get on to the show. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 126 of the Psychology World podcast with me, Connor Whiteley. And today's episode is on 5 signs of psychopathic personality. So I wanted to finish up for the year with a really great, really interesting episode. And come on, I think looking at the personality of a psychopath, I don't quite think it gets much more interesting than that. So this is really interesting, this is just such a good episode that I cannot recommend enough. And it is Monday the 20th of December 2021 as I record this. And because I'm pre-recording this, just so I get Christmas and New Year's off doing the podcast, there will be no psychology news section today. And as always, I always love to hear your thoughts and feelings on today's episode. So you can always email me, connorwhiteley@connorwhiteley.net. You can always leave a comment on the show notes at connorwhiteley.net/podcast. And you can always tweet me on Twitter at Sci-Fi Whiteley. I always love to hear from all of you because it really helps make the podcast feel more like a conversation. And today's episode has been sponsored by Personality Psychology and Individual Differences. So this is an absolute brilliant sponsor for today's episode because this personality psychology book really goes into great depth and breadth about what personality is, because not only does it actually tell us what our personality is, and it goes on to how we measure it, but also goes into what causes our personality. For example, the cognitive, social and the biological causes of our personality. And there are some amazing chapters that I absolutely love. For example, there's a great chapter, and it's actually one of the first few, where it actually tells us some of the really scary applications of a personality psychology in the real world. And that chapter clearly shows us how much our personality can actually impact our behaviour. But then the book also goes into how our personality impacts our religion and our politics. So this is an absolutely brilliant book that I cannot recommend enough. So that is Personality Psychology and Individual Differences, available from all major ebook retailers, and you can find the paperback, large print and hardback versions from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. So we're moving on to the content part of today's episode. So 5 signs of psychopathy. This was just really good to write. Superficially charming. So this is what everyone thinks of when they think about psychopaths, because they're charming to get their own way. Since unlike you and me, we tend to be quite transactional in our relationships because it's fair and it's the right thing to do. Whereas a psychopath will charm their way without self-restraint to get what they want. Then, if you ever encounter a psychopath, which for some reason I just don't want to do, then you might notice a person with a psychopathic personality as being too slick and overly nice to work their way towards their goal. But going back to us being transactional, the psychopathic personality is not. Instead, they are instrumental and they only use people for what they're good for. They're not without a clear reason or cause. They can turn cruel, cunning and even dangerous, meaning that you might realise a person with a psychopathic personality style is to belittle and seduce others to get what they want. And of course, this is not the normal style that people tend to use, because you and me, what we tend to do is we tend to bond with others and help them as much as they help you. Deceitfulness. So as psychopaths always feel the need to be on the top, and they have a lack of ability to bond with others, and they have their own distorted self-esteem, psychopaths will lie, cheat, rationalise their actions and twist the truth to such extreme degrees that reality is unrecognisable to any objective observers. And I actually need to stress that it is natural for people to lie, cheat, and do what psychopaths do to a much lesser extent. But psychopaths will always go about the extra 10 miles in their deceptions because they have to do it for themselves due to their own distorted self-esteem, their inability to bond with others and always be on top. Boredom and the need for stimulation. So this does relate to the fourth point, but psychopaths have shallow emotions, as well as they have a high stimulation-seeking drive. That means that they get bored quickly, resulting in, when this is combined with their need to constantly seek out stimulation, psychopaths are quicker to take chances and take part in risky behaviour. But again, though, if we compare the normal person, and of course you have to say normal in such a weird voice, because of course in psychology there's no such thing as normal. In everyday life there's no such thing as normal. But of course we're talking about the average person here, and that's probably why I should have put that. So if we compare the average person to psychopaths, we all engage in risky behaviours from time to time. But we all tend to be sensible to at least think about it first. Psychopaths don't weigh up the risks and think about it logically. They just go for it, fun and thrilling, and they need the stimulation. Shallow emotions. So what makes this next characteristic so strange is how charming psychopaths can appear. Since psychopaths can have good conversations with people about their lives, and they can appear to be present and engaging in the emotional conversation, then the psychopath can just change the conversation in an instant. And it's that change that people start to realise how shallow their emotions are, and how much the other person, who's the psychopath, just doesn't actually care about them. For example, you might be talking to the psychopath about a family member that you loved to die last month. Then the next second, the psychopath could change the conversation completely. And of course, even if we don't want to be in this conversation, because we didn't know with this person, and the person telling us is a stranger, we've all been in these sort of conversations that that have just been forced on us by other people. But the most important thing here to note, though, is that we all know that we need to let the other person finish, say some supportive words, then maybe change the conversation if it's appropriate. Psychopaths don't understand that because of their inability to bond with others. So, but the last one is a history of shady conduct. To wrap up this look at the characteristics of psychopaths, we need to acknowledge that with psychopaths having no moral centre and a high stimulation-seeking drive, it's hardly surprising to hear that sometimes their behaviour can catch up with them. But sadly, this is normally far too late for their victims at the time. And I was actually reading them up quite a bit of the research, and some of them are quite, oh my god, only a psychopath could do that to someone. And it's just so strange. For example, in the book Decoding Madness, the author describes a case where a psychopath was admired by the supervisor because of his effectiveness in sales, but then the risky behaviour of the fraud and the killing got revealed, and of course by then it's sadly far too late to save the victims, and the company who this psychopath actually worked for had already lost tons of money because of him. So again, it's sadly just far too late. So all in all, psychopaths will engage in risky behaviours and to take chances to commit crimes because it's really exciting and it feeds their stimulation-seeking needs. So overall, I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and psychopathy is just such a brilliant topic, and that's something that I definitely will explore more, more in 2022, because it's really interesting. I would never want to have first-hand experience, but all of these topics are really fun, really interesting to explore from afar though. So if you know anyone who would enjoy today's episode, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the podcast. And definitely check out Personality, Psychology and Individual Differences. Available in all the usual places. So have a great day everyone, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see the show notes, then please go to connorwhiteley.net. And if you want a free 8-book psychology box set, then please go to connorwhiteley.net. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.